Hi, this is Coach B with MasterYourChess.com. Today we're going to take a look at another very important lesson that every chess player needs to know, and it's the lesson of the outside pass pawn. If you look at the position that we have in front of us, one mistake a lot of times that beginners make, they look at the black king and they say, oh, black king is so far away, I'm going to be able to race my pawn to the end of the board and get a queen. However, if you push the pawn to h4 here, black will actually be able to get inside the square of the pawn and stop that pawn from becoming a queen. And now from here, he's actually going to be winning this game as we're going to reach a fox and a chicken type of position. However, if we come back to the beginning, white is actually the one winning this game because of his outside pass pawn. The pawn on the h file is called an outside pass pawn because it is a pawn that is the furthest away from the center of the board. So what white has to do here in order to win the game, he has to get this king in the center and also block black's pass pawn on the e file. So the correct move here will be king to e3. And after this, maybe black will come and stop him. Let's say king to d6, king to e4, king to e6. Black is taking the opposition, not letting white through. And now is the time to push the outside pass pawn because black will have to stop it. You could see on the left hand side, black has 2 pawns, white has 2 pawns. So white's 2 pawns will be able to stop black's 2 pawns if black's trying to get a pass pawn. And the pawn on the e file now, it's blocked because white is in its path and he's going to be stubborn as a rock and not move there. So the only thing that it's going to move is the pawn on the h file, and black will have to stop that as that's going to become a queen if he lets it go. So now is the time to push the pawn to h4. Here, black can try to get a pass pawn again on the other side, but nothing's going to happen. White can just stop it. And after black runs out of tempi, now black has to go after the pawn on the h file. So he's going to have to go to f6. And now white has 2 options which are both winning. He can push the pawn to h5 or he can move the king to d5. If he pushes the pawn to h5, now it will take black 2 tempi to take white's pawn, and it will take white 3 tempi to win black's pawn. And this is how the game will continue. Black will come and attack the pawn on g5, white will go after black's pawn, and after white takes it, black will simply come after white and trying to take the opposition when he takes the pawn. However, we know from the previous lesson with landmines, now black is defending his pawn, but white will be able to blow him off by coming to a5, and now black will have to let that pawn go, and from here white with 2 extra pawns will be able to win this game. And if we go back, instead of pushing the pawn to h5, white can also go to the square d5, which is an even better option because if black is trying to go after white's pawn, now it's going to take him 1, 2, 3 moves to win white's pawn, and it's going to take white 1, 2 moves to win black's pawn. So white is actually going to be ahead in tempi, racing on the other side. And even if black checks the white king, white will simply come in front of the pawn. And now it's still going to take white 2 tempi to win black's pawn, and it will take black 1, 2, 3 tempi still to win white's pawn. So the game will continue as follows. He's going to take the pawn, black will take the other, and now black will chase white down. And you can see here white took the other pawns, black didn't even have time to defend it, and from here the game is also winning for white. In this next position, if we analyze it a little bit, we could see on the right hand side both players have a pawn on the h file, so they block each other off. And then on the left hand side, white has an outside pass pawn, therefore he should be winning this game. However, just pushing the pawn right away will not win, because even though it's going to drag black's king to stop that pawn from becoming a queen, white will not be able to take this backward pawn here, as he's not going to be able to stop the pawn on the e file from becoming a queen because he's not going to be inside the square of the pawn. Therefore, what white should do here to be able to win this game, he has to break black's pawn structure, so he's going to have to move the pawn right away to c4. So here black will take white's pawn, and now white can take the pawn on the e file. And we could see we've reached an outside pass pawn type of position. Black's pawn is stopped by white's king. If he's trying to push it, white will simply come next to it, and then he's going to be able to take it. Even here, let's say after black moves the pawn to h5, the position is winning for white, but he still has to be careful. Pushing the pawn to a4, trying to drag the king towards the pawn, it's not going to win right away. Here black can push the pawn, let's say, to h4. After pawn push to a5, black will go after the pawn, and he's going to be able to stop it as he got inside the square of the pawn. And now black will be able to get that pawn, but he will have time to come and stop white from promoting his pawn to a queen. After white moves let king to e4, black is simply just going to come after white. Here black can come to f7. If white is going to try to stop black from reaching the corner, he's not going to be able to, as black will be able to come to square g8. And now white cannot do anything from getting black out of the corner, and black simply achieved the draw. So going back to this position, after white takes the pawn on c2 and black moves his pawn to h5, what white has to do is chase the king towards the center and then towards black's pawn. It will take black a lot longer to go after white's pawn to stop it on the left side. And if black is trying to stop white from taking his pawn, that's the time to push the outside pass pawn, as we're going to be able to promote if black is outside of the square of the pawn. So let's go ahead through this position. White will move the king to d3. Let's say black is going to take the opposition, trying to stop him from making progress. Now we can start pushing the outside pass pawn. Black will have to go after that pawn, and white will be able to go after black's pawn. And now white was able to take black's pawn. He's also going to be able to take the horizontal opposition. And if black is trying to go towards the square f8 or towards the corner, white will be able to block him off, creating a wall and not letting black through. And after black is trying to go around, white will simply start pushing the pawn, and now black cannot get to it in time to stop him from becoming a queen. Coming back from the beginning, I also want to mention that if white chose to push the pawn to a4 right away, and black comes to e5, and now white is trying to break that structure, this doesn't work anymore, because here black doesn't have to take, as he's going to be able to push the pawn forward with the check, and this position now it's totally drawn. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I encourage you to go to my website masterychess.com, where you'll be able to practice a lot more other positions that involve the outside pass pawn.